one thing that we should talk about before beginning this assignment is hash marks. Hash marks are a very important thing when we're going to start looking more and more at congruence in geometry. So, all a hash mark is just a line that I use to identify a side. So I'm going to put one hash mark right over here. Maybe I'll put 2 hash marks here. Oop, I put 3 there. So then I'll put 2 over there. Now, the point of having hash marks is to recognize corresponding parts or to label off corresponding parts on congruent or similar triangles. If I have one hash mark between A, B, the corresponding side on this triangle is the line ED. So if I have one hash mark here, I will put one hash mark there. This is showing that these two sides are equal to each other and also that they are corresponding sides. If I have 2 hash marks on AC, I'll then put 2 on EF, and that just shows that AC and EF are equal to each other and corresponding. And then also I'll do 3 lines for DF because DF corresponds with BC, and that also means that BC and DF are congruent or equal. Now I can do the same type of thing for angles. If I want to do angle C, I'll just put a little angle marker over there. And to show the corresponding angle in the other triangle, I can put a single line over there. And that shows that C and F are corresponding angles and that they are both equal to each other. If I want to do that for B and I want to show a different one, maybe I'll do 2 lines for B. And so then that corresponding angle is going to be D, so I'll put 2 little arcs over there. Same thing with A and E. I'll put, let's say, 3 on A, so then my corresponding angle E is going to also have 3 lines there. So that's what you take a look at, or that's how you use hash marks when you're talking about 2 corresponding or 2 congruent triangles. All right. With that out of the way, let's move on to the activity. The diagram below is made up of 4 congruent scalene triangles. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 triangles. It says that they are all congruent to each other, and scalene just means that no sides are equal in the triangle. For each pair of triangles, identify the rigid motions that can be used to show congruence, then write congruency statements for the triangles and congruent sides and angles. All right, so I'm actually going to do that on this sheet over here. Let's start taking a look. So I'm going to start out by, on my patty paper, tracing out one of the triangles. So I'll trace out side 1, and I also started out by putting hash marks on each one of those. So on this side I put 1 hash mark, I put 2 over here, 3 over here. And then the opposite angle from each side, I put the same number on each one. So for example, let me zoom in a little bit. Because I have 1 hash mark on this side, AX over here, the opposite angle, I put 1 arc. Same thing over here, I had 2 hash marks on my bottom side over here, so I'll put 2 little arcs on that angle, 3 over here, and 3 arcs on that angle. All right, it wants me to figure out what motion I took to go from triangle 1 to triangle 2. That's this first one over here. Well, to go from triangle 1 to triangle 2, it looks like it's just a simple translation. So to do this, I'm going to write out translation. This was the rigid motion that can be used to show congruence between triangles 1 and 2, because I just took triangle 1 and mapped it onto triangle 2 over here just like this. So I was able to show that translation is my rigid motion to prove that triangles 1 and 2 are congruent. Next, what I'm going to do is on this picture, I'm just going to start putting in my matching hash marks. So I had 1 hash mark on the top here, 2 on the bottom here, 3 on this side over here, which then meant 1 on the opposite angle, 1, 2, 3 on that opposite angle, and then 1, 2 on this opposite angle. Well, using my translation, I can see that this side now is going to be 1 hash mark. This side over here, the left side, corresponds with, so AZ is going to correspond with ZB, and then ZX is going to correspond with BY. And I'll also do my corresponding angles. 2 over there, 1, 2, 3 over here. All right. So I'm going to write some congruency statements for my sides and angles, but there's honestly going to be, well, let's try and get all of them in here. And I just already, so I identified the transformation. It was a translation. Here, I just labeled all the parts of my diagram using hash marks. And now I need to write the congruency statements for each part. So let's zoom out and we can get all of this in one picture. All right. So it was a translation. Now, I'm going to say 1 hash mark here, 1 hash mark here. Line segment AX is congruent to line segment. I started with A, I'm going to X, so I'm going to start with Z, go to Y. Z, Y. Now, line segment ZX is going to be congruent to line segment BY. ZX is congruent to BY. And then finally, for my sides, I'm going to say AZ is congruent to ZB. Line AZ is congruent to ZB. Those are all of my sides. Here, I'll do the entire triangle, right? This is triangle AZX is going to be congruent to ZBY. Triangle AZX is congruent to triangle ZBY. And then finally, I'm going to do my angles. Angle A is congruent to angle A, that's 2 hash marks there, is going to match up with the 2 hash marks over there. Now careful, angle A, I can just name angle A because there's no confusion. But this angle over here, I just can't call angle Z because then I might be talking about this angle over here, or this angle over here, or this angle over here. So I need to give it the full name. Let's do YZB. Angle YZB, because that's going to draw out from Y to Z, Z to B. That's the angle that matches up with A. Let's do these final 2 angles. Angle AZX, angle AZX is going to be congruent with AZX. That's the one. That's going to be this angle B over here. Or if I want to, use 3 letters again, I did A, then Z, then X to get this angle over here. So now I'm going to do Z, then B, then Y to say that my congruent angle here is equal. So it's congruent with angle ZBY. So angle AZX is congruent to angle ZBY. I think I can zoom in a little bit more. So here's my sides, here's the triangle, and now I'm going to do my final angle. I got to get angle AXZ. So angle AXZ, well, that's going to be congruent to AXZ, is then going to be Z to B to Y. AXZ. Z, AXZ is then going to be Z to B to Y. That'll be this triple angle over here. So my corresponding parts of my congruent triangles are equal. So AXZ is going to be congruent to ZYB. Angle ZYB. And here are my angles. Sides, angles. All right, so that is for part 1. Now it's your job to fill in for 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, all the different ones. It's gonna get easier and easier to label all of them because, look, I've already got this side over here matches up with that side if I wanna do maybe, what is that? 2 and 3, that's the second part over here. So good luck on the rest of it, and that's this video.